This is a 16-inch by 20-inch standard canvas prepped with a very thin coat of linseed oil and a very thin coat of titanium white oil paint. I'm going to take this 1-inch landscape brush and go into this ivory black paint. I'm going to have a moon in this painting. I want the brightest part of this sky to be right here. So I'm going to add the dark colors furthest away from that area and then work my way towards that area, lightening up the color. We're going to tap into some ivory black paint. Again, this is an oil painting. This is a 1-inch landscape brush. We're just going to tap a little bit of color into that brush. And I'm going to start bringing some of that color in onto the canvas. I'm going to get the edges. Just the edges. This is going to be my lightest area, so I want this to be a little bit darker and then lighter as it gets closer to that area. I'm wiping my brush off on paper towels very well in between applications of paint. This way I can come back in and not bring in all that color. I have to keep in mind where I want my skyline to end. I'm going to take this 1-inch landscape brush that we've been wiping off on paper towels. Again, between each application, I'm going to wipe it off and just blend it out a little bit. I'm using very little force, very little pressure. So I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to want these areas a little bit more darker. So I'm going to add a little bit more darker paint in those areas and then just continue to blend it into this light area. But again, I want to keep this the lightest area of the painting. So I've added some more and kind of just blending it in. Added more to the corners here on the sides and the top here and kind of just blended it in. I'm trying to keep this the lightest area. I'm going to switch it up to the other 1-inch landscape brush here. Add a little bit of white paint and come back in here and brighten this up just a little bit. Just a little bit. Then I'll come back in with the other brush and blend it out. Okay, we're just continuing to blend here a little bit. Blend this all together. We're going over it very, very gentle. We're wiping it off on paper towels. Again, very, very gentle. I'm going to take this filbert brush and paint in a mournful moon. Why? Because it'll be overlooking the gravestones of loved ones who have passed. I'm going to take this filbert brush and go into this titanium white, right in the center of the brightest area in the sky. Nothing too big, but you can paint it however big you want. Now that we have the moon established using the filbert brush, we're going to move on to some clouds, some comforting clouds. I'm going to take this number 6 fan brush and go into some ivory black. I'm going to add a nice amount of ivory black paint to this number 6 fan brush, and we're going to come in with some clouds. I'm just going to add a few little clouds using a little small circular motion, but then narrowing it out as I come closer to the moon. I'm going to add another little one right here. I'm going to come back in with the fan brush right around here. I'm going to bring this one out right in front of the moon. Just a little bit. I'm barely going to touch into that moon with the edge of this number 6 fan brush. And add as many as you'd like or as little as you'd like. This is your sad world. I'm just using the edge of this number 6 fan brush, just letting that paint come off little by little. And if I want more, I just press down a little bit harder wherever I want more. But if I don't want very much, I'll just touch it very gentle. Very gentle. If I want more, then I just press down harder. Again, we're just using a number 6 fan brush and adding dark color where we want and keeping it light where we want, just using the very edge of this fan brush. But if we want more dark, we just smash it in. I think we'll be okay there. And then we'll blend it in using a 1-inch landscape brush. I'm going to bring in just a little bit more paint right in here. Just using the edge of this number 6 fan brush. I'm going to use a 1-inch landscape brush, the one that I'm using for light colors. And I'm going to start on the bottom and start blending this out just a little bit. Very gentle, going over some of these small little stringy clouds and bringing them into the painting, setting them into the painting. I'm going to wipe off my brush, and I'm just going to use the very edge of this brush here on these clouds here on the bottom. I'm just going to diffuse the bottom of these clouds, just the bottom, just using the edge. Go over them very gentle. Again, I'm using 2 of these 1-inch landscape brushes, one for dark, one for lights. So when you know you're going over light colors and dark colors, you're going to go ahead and use the brush you need accordingly. I'm using the 1-inch landscape brush for light colors, for these on the bottom. Very gently going over these. For the ones on the top here, I will use the darker brush. Wherever I'm going into a lighter area, I'll use the lighter brush. Wiping off the brushes is very important in this method.